the day unfolds. The news and events.
Namaskar and welcome to a brand new episode of In Focus. In this show, we take a closer look at the issues and development that are critical to India's growth story. Today's story is from the field of defense, and DRDO is successfully testing anti-tank and new surface-to-air missile system. What does this mean? The Defense Research and Development Organization, that's DRDO, tested two missile systems which included a man-portable anti-tank guided missile that's called MP-ATGM for the Indian Army, and a new variant of the Akash surface-to-air missile, that's Akash new generation, for the Indian Air Force, the Ministry of Defense. These are two things that took place. In both these tests, the mission objectives were successfully met by the missile systems. So what does this mean for self-reliant India and in our journey for Atmanirbhar Bharat? Well, we'll try and analyze, how exactly and how does it help, especially India or India's defense system in its growth story. Joining us, three eminent guests this afternoon to take us through this discussion: G. Narasimha Rao, Director General Production DRDO, joining us this afternoon. Along with that, Production Coordination and Service Interaction DRDO joining us this afternoon. We also got Commodore Siddharth Mishra, CMD Bharat Dynamics Limited, the company that's involved in the production of this, and also KV Prasad, the senior defense journalist, joining us this afternoon. Let me come first to you, Mr. Rao. Looking at the Akash new generation, how is it more advanced from the earlier version? Mr. Rao, good afternoon. Welcome to In Focus. I just wanted to ask you your opening remarks on Akash new generation, or how is it more advanced than the earlier version?
Good morning. As we have successfully test-fired Akash NG yesterday, it is a milestone towards the development of Akash NG missile system, especially for Air Force requirements.
Okay.
It is tailor-made for Air Force requirements of engaging low RCS targets at high altitudes. That is the specialty of this system.
Okay, we also got two more guests joining us this afternoon. We've got Comrade Siddharth Mishra, CMD Bharat Dynamics Limited, joining us, and also KV Prasad, senior defense journalist. Let me come to Mr. Prasad first. Mr. Prasad, when you look at this particular self-reliant India journey for self-reliant India, how do these two things that DRDO tested, successfully tested, what does it mean for Indian arsenal, especially when it comes to the forces?
Well, I think this is, as Mr. Rao put it, a significant milestone. If you look at the incremental steps in the missile journey, India's, especially in the military missiles, I think the DRDO and along with other bodies have been doing a fairly good job over the years. And in fact, we've developed a lot of indigenous missile systems thanks to the kind of robust work they have been doing, notwithstanding the criticism that comes in from the services over delays and other issues. I think missile systems have fairly been integrated into the Indian defense platforms. So if that has moved forward, it is largely because of the work done by scientists. And if you look at the projections, especially the DRDO, particularly the chief has made, and Mr. Satish Reddy had mentioned in a couple of months ago, was that they have a very ambitious plan to deliver between 2021 and 2023. Which is very good because we need this, because we have a lot of dependence on imports on missile systems that we need on defense platforms. So I think this is a step in the right direction. But it's still a long way to go.
Okay, Mr. Mishra, when you look at this entire story of these two missiles, how would you look at it? You're purely handling it from the production part of it, but how would you look at it purely in terms of these two missiles that have been developed?
See, as far as development and production of missiles are concerned, recently in last 2 years onwards, a very good policy has been made by DRDO that they select the development cum production partner at the beginning of the project itself.
Okay.
Now, when we are working with DRDO in tandem, it is considered as a concurrent engineering. That means when the DRDO is developing a product, we are started producing those products. So presently, these two missiles which has been fired, actually these have been manufactured by us in our premises.
Okay.
And with this, what happens? The trial times for services reduces. For example, these trials which will be done by DRDO is considered as production trials because the entire thing has been manufactured by us. So it is a very good policy decision which has been taken by DRDO, and it is a welcome step, welcome by services also, because they wanted to reduce the trial time, and this is going to be reduced. Coming to the ATGM per se, see, Bharat Dynamics has been working in this field since last 52 years. Till now, we have manufactured 3 different types of anti-tank guided missiles. These are Concourse M, then these are Milan 2T, and also Invar.
Okay.
But all these were on the transfer of technology from outsiders.
Okay.
2 were from Russia, 1 was from France. But this time, this MP ATGM has been developed by DRDO. It is an indigenous development, and it is completely, entire thing is made in India. So
Okay.
this gives a biggest impetus to our Atmanirbhar Bharat program.
Okay.
And as far as MP ATGM is concerned, almost more than 96% will be indigenous, but for some components which will come from abroad.
Okay.
Thus, coming to Akash NG. See, Akash missile system, as you all are aware, that is one of the biggest program which India has done, and we have supplied to Indian Armed Forces, both to Army as well as Air Force. And the first we started with Akash missile, which is command and control guided. Second missile is Akash Prime, which is now under final production and supply to Indian Army. This is a seeker-based system, and now the next
Okay.
generation Akash NG. So just see, in last 7 to 8 years, we have already upgraded the Akash system from a normal Akash to Akash Prime to Akash NG. This is
Okay.
one of the biggest step which DRDO has taken, and I full credit to DRDO's management, the chairman DRDO, and Mr. GN Prasad, and the missile complex which is there in co-located with us in Hyderabad.
Okay.
So it is a very good step.
Mr. Rao, when you look at Akash NG, how does it work, especially on the engine front?
As Commodore Siddhartha Mishra has pointed out, it is a very significant improvement over the generations of surface-to-air missile systems. And I want to point out the way we have responded to the requirements of the users. So now, as everybody knows, threats are becoming more and more stealthier. So RCS is coming down. Everybody is putting their best to reduce the radar cross-section area of the targets. So to meet those requirements of the Air Force, to engage the low RCS targets, this missile has been especially designed with a seeker which can tackle those threats. But the propulsion system, it is a 2-stage propulsion system. It is called a 2-pulse. So
Okay.
very much optimized propulsion system is used to give 30 plus ranges which are required to meet the target. Yes.
Okay. Mr. Prasad, when you look at the present status of indigenization, especially in India in the defense sector, how would you look at it, purely in the last 6 years gone by?
Well, it's a large area to work for, and what is important is we are moving increasingly towards indigenization.
Okay.
Of course, the critical element, as I think also mentioned, for instance, one of the missiles, 86%. So the question is, some of the critical components we still need to import for variety of reasons. A, for access to technology, or the cost of developing the technology would be much higher than the cost of importing that product, or C, the technology is being developed, but it will take longer down the line for us to integrate into the platforms that we are developing. So these are the issues that always have to do the cost-benefit analysis on any indigenization program. For instance, even when we talk of the Tejas, I think more than 80% is, of course, by indigenization, but some of the critical elements continue to be supported by imports. We need to it. In fact, the very engine itself, for instance, Tejas, we have a foreign supplier. So these are issues. I mean, we have not been able to develop an engine for the Kaveri engine has been works for more than 2 decades. It has been tested and so on and so forth. But that's why scientific community works for it, and not all the projects end up in the way the success one would like to measure. But it's a step in the direction. It also requires the amount of funds that the government and the research for the R&D we are committing ourselves to and moving forward.
Okay. Commodore Mishra, when you look at especially this particular, purely in terms of navigation and honing on its target, how do you see the technology especially?
As far as the tracking of the target and the homing head is concerned, this entire homing head, that is, it's called Seeker.
Okay.
The Seeker technology is fully indigenous, and we have been involved since beginning of the development of this Seeker, and we are proud to say that this Seeker was manufactured by us.
Okay.
In our in the DRDO premises, but by our people, and we have created a facility in BDL for manufacturing of Seeker. I must tell you that Seeker technology till date was very difficult to get it from abroad, and nobody has given till now to us to develop or to manufacture a Seeker. But now onwards, all the new systems which are coming in India, for all the new Seekers which are coming, all the new missiles which are coming, are the Seekers are designed and developed by our Indian scientists, by DRDO. And these Seekers are being manufactured by us in our premises.
Okay.
So it is a very big leap as far as missile technology is concerned. Because till now, all the missiles which were there, they were either wire guided, or they were laser guided, or they were command and control guided. But none of them had Seekers.
Okay.
So now the Seeker technology being developed by us, so it is one of the most accurate weapon system.
Okay.
So this Akash NG system will be much better than the many systems which are contemporary available in this field, in this world also.
Okay.
So it will be a world-class missile system which will be available with India.
Okay. Mr. Rao, purely looking at the range, especially, on the Nag missile, how would you say, in terms of range, how do you see the potency of this?
Nag missile we have already developed, and it is in the anvil of induction. Now, to respond to the user's requirement, especially for infantry, for the carrying by a soldier and moving quickly and launching, this MP-80GM, recently what we have test flight, has been developed. So it is for the short range, for immediate visible targets, launched by a infantryman carrying on a shoulder on a tripod and quickly moving in the front and launching. That is a requirement which has come beyond the Nag. Nag is a vehicle mounted, tracked vehicle mounted missile with a farther ranges.
Okay.
MP-80GM is a smaller missile with a reduced footprint and a smaller missile which can be launched from a shoulder of a soldier. That was a requirement which we could meet immediately for the closer ranges and the farther ranges.
Okay.
Recently what we have done is a minimum range, and maximum range was already proven. So it is on the production phase now. So we will go to shortly into the user trials, paving way to the user trials.
Okay. Mr. Prasad, when you look, since it's a miniature version, does it become an, an advantage, or, does it become, rather, easier from a logistical point of view, just as Mr. Rao just mentioned?
See, I can tell you something which is very interesting development is the man-portable ATGM, because about a decade ago, India was trying to look at a weapon system from America, particularly, which has a similar work, which is called Javelin. And it was used in the Yuddhabhyas exercise in one of the exercises in India about a decade ago. And for a long time, India was looking at it, but for variety of reasons that didn't go through. As Mr. Rao has mentioned, I think the precision development in the short range has been tested. The maximum distance has been tested otherwise. So I think with the weapon delivery, the ranges will be determined. So if this thing goes through, it should fill in the gap as the infantry was looking in terms of the portable man-shoulder, which Javelin was. And I think they were not just Javelin, some other French or defense manufacturers too were offering us this product. Now that we have moved on the indigenization scale and with the DRDO scientists coming up with this equipment, which is a very good step. And I'm sure in whatever time frame the DRDO has for itself to make this available to the user, end user, which is the infantry in particular, the Indian Army and infantry in particular, it's a good sign.
Okay. Mr. Mishra, when you look at, especially this, Akash NG, looking at the number of targets that it can simultaneously engage, is there an exponential growth that you look at, or is it almost similar to the one that we had earlier seen with Akash?
No. See, this Akash NG is a much better system than the previous one which is already there. See, the best part is this Akash NG system is much sleeker. It has got a fire control radar, it has got a command and control system, and it has got each command and control system has got 4 launchers, and each launcher will have 6 missiles. So with one system, it will be at around 24 missiles can be fired with this system. So this, the Akash NG system is one of the sleeker system which are now will be available for a quick action. Actually, till now, what used to happen that the major Akash system, main Akash system, is a system which is supposed to be permanently placed at one place. Though they can be moved, but it requires a lot of time for rigging up and then finally using it. Whereas this system, what Air Force wanted is it should be on move. That means suppose we want to keep the system at today at Leh, tomorrow it can be shifted to Ladakh, it can be shifted to Rajasthan, it can be moved fast. And also, it can, as soon as it reaches there, it can be deployed at a very shortest possible time. So this is one of the best quick reaction you can say for using against anti-air requirement. For example, it is for against aircraft, it is against UAVs, and it can be against missile also. So it's a very good system. And coming to this MP-ATGM, this MP-ATGM technology which has been developed, which is a miniaturized missile, the biggest challenge of MP-ATGM, of ATGM, is the shortest range. Yesterday's firing, we have cleared the shortest range, that is 200 meters. Just try to understand that you're firing from here at such a high-speed missile is going, and within 200 meters it is going to hit that thing.
Okay.
It is one of the biggest challenges. Yesterday the firing, it has gone and directly hit the target, and it was a successful thing. We are the manufacturing agency for this also, and we have already created the entire infrastructure for manufacturing. And by year end, we should be able to complete the user trials.
Okay, Mr. Rao, purely looking at Akash NG, using a dual pulse solid rocket motor, what does it mean in a layman's language, for easy understanding, especially, students and people who are watching this program?
Yeah, primarily propulsion systems will have single stage, double stage, ramjet, continuously propelled, like different systems. Here, this 2-stage missile has been optimized. So single stage will fire first, and second stage will fire whenever you are falling below a certain level of the velocity to optimize the total energy. So you have a very optimized energy propulsion system for this kind of missile, so that you are carrying very optimal weight for the ranges which you are claiming to be. Otherwise, it would have been a bulkier missile.
Okay.
So compared to Original Akash, this is a very small missile. And coming to the configuration, as some time back we have been discussing, see, we are responding very quickly to the requirements. Otherwise, if you buy or imported a system, you are stuck for the whole lifetime of the missile. Unlike we have brought the Akash, now Akash NG, quickly to respond to the target requirements and the flight time requirements and the ranges which are projected by the user. So that if it is a homegrown technologies, this propulsion system is entirely developed within Hyderabad DRDL premises, and many of the MSMEs local to Hyderabad have contributed to this, led by VDL integration. So that's how we could develop this optimized propulsion system, that is 2 pulse. First pulse followed by second pulse whenever you require velocity. Otherwise that will be dormant. So that we are optimizing the total energy system of the propulsion for the ranges which you are claiming, and we ensure the velocity also at the end, which is required for maneuverability. That is the crux of the system.
Okay, and Mr. Prasad, when you look at, grasping the defense self-reliant nettle, how successful do you feel, or how, how forward-looking has the journey been?
Well, it has been always been a path, but the path is riddled with a lot of issues because of a variety of reasons. The highest being the technology, which we just discussed a little while ago too. Absence of critical technology has been an impediment. As the two fellow panelists from BDL mentioned, if the seeking technology has been developed indigenously, it is also a credit to our scientists and also the scientific community. And also remember that technology denial has been the biggest spur for Indian scientific community to go on and develop critical systems which were not available to us for a variety of reasons. Even today, after many years, many critical technologies are not made available, at least because of the fear of dual use. So this has been a system that has been in discussion for a pretty long time, and I don't think it's going to be so, because many countries are wary of handing a dual-use technology to countries, especially for its defense and on the military platforms. So that is a challenge which the Indian scientific community has been taking up. As I mentioned, there have been criticism over the delays, over time delays, but if we have changed the pattern, as we just heard on the panel, by inducting, getting the users to use it as you develop the product. Because what has been happened otherwise, defense, one of the services needs a requirement. So they put up the service quality requirements. And based on the requirements, you start either developing or trying to look for manufacturers, both indigenous and overseas. All that over the years has changed because the defense procurement policy, which came 2 decades ago, has continuously been tweaked to ensure we move towards indigenization, because our import bills remain astronomically high. And the whole idea is to change the pattern and move towards indigenization.
Okay. Mr. Rao, when you look at especially Akash NG, purely would you say that, smaller targets there, especially on the radar, which are difficult to spot on the radar, how efficient does it become, especially with Akash NG coming into play?
Yeah, as we have been talking, as the threats are becoming more and more stealthier,
Agreed.
And reducing their RCS by different means, there is a requirement to track these targets and engage using efficient means. So towards that, this Akash NG is a system which is developed primarily to target these things by the powerful radar, which is an active electronically scanned radar system with a aperture which can track targets at farther ranges so that we can launch the missile. Once you launch the missile autonomously engages the target using the active seeker it is carrying, and this active seeker is also having a capacity to track these small RCS targets and home on to that.
Okay.
So both ways, by ground radar and by the means of onboard seeker, Akash NG is capable of meeting this small RCS target threat which is on the anvil and on the horizon.
Commodore Mishra, when you look at this particular version, Akash NG, is this only for the Air Force, or does it also extend to the armed forces?
No, this is actually it was on the initiative of Air Force that this program has been done, but
Okay.
this is as useful for army also.
Okay.
See, army air defense and air force air defense are same, but it has been divided into this. But now with the talk going on, integrated air defense command coming, so the entire thing will be integrated. So it will be used for air defense. It can be used by army, it can be used for air force, and for all types of target. As Mr. G. Rao was telling about this system, as you are making anti-air weapons, similarly the aircrafts are also becoming smarter. So it has to their radar cross sections are coming down, their speeds are going up. So by using this double pulse technology in the missile, and having this seeker with which can detect low RCS aircrafts, and with high speed, the maneuverability of this missile will be much higher, and the kill probability will increase tremendously. So this Akash NG weapon system will be the one of the biggest and one of the most potent weapon against aircraft and aerial targets.
Okay, Mr. Rao, now that the portable ATGM is there, do you think that we have become self-reliant, especially in that particular area?
Absolutely. As Commodore Mishra has pointed out, erstwhile missiles which were wire-guided and all which were taken on TOT and produced by BDL, now we have come a long way in anti-tank weapons with the third generation anti-tank missile with imaging infrared seeker, NOG, which is coming into production and induction, followed by the current missile MP-ATGM, will definitely fulfill all the requirements of the users from mechanized forces to infantry, and address the target systems also which are posing a threat to our this thing. So we are completely self-reliant in case of these anti-tank weapons now. And we have already made a NOG which can be fired from a helicopter also. So that also becomes one more this thing in form of helicopter launched NOG.
Okay. Mr. Prasad, when you look at now, we're talking about portable ATGM now helping us become self-reliant. But there was also a demand that was created, especially when it comes to, using Spike from Israel or Javelin from United States of America. Do you see that particular demand slowly eroding?
No, if you look at it, the fact that the demand is there for the services for anti-tank shoulder-guided missile delivery system. So this development which came yesterday is in response to that demand. So the demand remains. The question is, where are we going to source it from? As I mentioned, we had an issue with the American offer. There was several rounds of negotiation happened, and that thing fell through for whatever reason. Similarly, the other mentioned Israeli technology. So on and so forth. Now that India has developed its own system, and the user trials are successful as we go along. I mean, the complete success remains validated by the user trials. So if everything falls in place, so it's an indigenous weapon which can be made and manufactured at home and supplied to the services in requirement of the demand. And one of the things that has happened in the last 2 years and very critical is that we are moving towards the integrated defense systems. The theater command system is being talked about, which is still in debate and discussion. There are points and counterpoints to it. So all these weaponization and the different platforms which are available with the three services will have to be synchronized in a manner where every service has a role to play, depending on the threat. And remember, the threats are today from multiple factors, apart from the traditional neighborhood in which we live in. The kind of platforms have changed. I mean, we are talking of drone technology altering the very system. We've just seen what happened in Jammu and Kashmir. So these are the threats which are real and existing. So the response comes according to the threat perceptions which are worked on.
Okay, time for us to slip into a short breather here on In Focus. On the other side, we'll now take a look at that larger picture of Make in India, indigenization that's taking place in the defense production. We'll get you the bigger picture, move forward now in the discussion, but after a short break. Stay tuned with DD India.
With the world's largest COVID vaccination drive, India is leading the way. As the vaccine reaches every corner of the nation, do not forget the mantra, Dawai bhi, Kadai bhi. Let's continue our fight against COVID-19. Vaccination along with social distancing, sanitization and masks.
Mask up, India!
Put your mask on and cover your nose and be safe.
Mask Up India. Your window to rising India. India's voice on global platforms. Latest news from India and around the world. In-depth analysis of global headlines. Watch DD India in your country. Available for downlink in Central Asian countries. STTV broadcast is available through the satellite GSAT 17 at 93.5 degrees east. HDTV broadcast is available through the satellite GSAT 10 at 83 degrees east. For technical details, scan here. Switch to DD India.
Welcome back to In Focus. The topic that we are talking today is about defense sector and the two missiles that were fired, the two success stories that DRDO has. We've got an eminent panel joining us this afternoon, which is already there before you, the eminent panel, all the guests there joining us this morning. But taking this forward, purely in terms of indigenization of, the defense sector, do you somewhere feel that the biggest drawback, Mr. Rao, when one looks at it, the biggest drawback is somewhere reducing that Indian fiscal deficit, and the steps taken have slowly started yielding results?
Yes, indigenization in the way reduces the defense bills.
Okay.
I mean, our development cost and the production cost is also low. Once we pay something for import, we are, as I pointed out, we are stuck with life, and life cycle costs are very high, even though initial costs may look attractive and lucrative. So if you see the overall perspective of the weapon system, import and life cycle cost and overall management of weapon system life extension, indigenous weapon systems will score a big point there. And in the modern warfare, as our co-panelist has pointed out, in the theatric commands and network-centric warfare, lot of integration of weapon system is required. With the import systems, that is a bit difficult because the interfaces are not known and legacy systems are there. So with the indigenous systems, this capability of integrating the weapon systems and fighting a combined battle in a net-centric warfare scenario increases enormously.
Kamita Mishra, when you look at, how is it helping, purely in terms of creating more jobs, bringing in more capital inflow, and also with regards to infusing more technology into play, getting more technology into play?
See, as far as we are concerned, the new technology which comes, our young engineers, they like to work with a futuristic technology, and that is their passion. So with that, when we are working with new technology, their interest is much more, and they work with a lot of passion. As far as when the new orders come for a company like Bharat Dynamics Limited, certainly we do our expansion. And this, when we expand, the new jobs come. For example, now because of new technologies which are coming and the orders which we have, now we are planning to expand our company. The present, we are operating right now from 4 different places in India, but now we are planning to operate it from one more new place where we are considering to create a factory, and then certainly the new jobs will be coming. Not only that, as Mr. Jirnao just told, that the life cycle cost of indigenous technology is drastically less than the one which is from abroad. I will tell you the example. For example, if you see foreign weapon systems, when you buy it today, and after 5 years or 10 years after the life of that missile is completed, then there is the requirement of life extension.
Okay.
Then there is a requirement of refurbishment of the missile. Now, for that refurbishment of the missile, this missile in that case has to go to that country.
Okay.
But now with these things, all the technology available with us, we will be able to extend the life of that missile system. We will be able to optimize the entire weapon system in one of the best manner. The entire space, the entire MSME, the entire ecosystem of the defense which is created in the country will grow with this entire thing. So the economy per se will grow.
Okay.
Plus, in addition to this, this indigenous system has got the biggest advantage that now with the clarion call of our Prime Minister, when he says that we must increase the export of weapon systems. Now we have, because of the indigenous technology, we are authorized to go and sell this abroad. And there are many countries who are showing a lot of interest. And we will be able to sell these technologies to our friendly foreign countries. Whereas the foreign technologies, we will not be allowed to sell from us. So that is the biggest advantage for our economy, for the economy of the country. This is one of the best things which can happen is the indigenization of the weapon system.
Okay, Mr. Prasad, when you purely look at the defense procurement policy, which was primarily with a focus on self-reliance, do you somewhere feel that's on the right track, and the target set for 2025, purely to be the year to become self-reliant on many fronts, at least in 13 weapon platforms? Do you see very much India on track to achieve that?
Well, we are working towards it. And it all depends on how the progress is measured in terms of delivery and also the success at the user trials and satisfaction with services which require it. So this is a work in progress. This is not something, we have to fix a target so that we are in what is known in the scientific community as a mission mode approach. We have a mission, so we have to work towards it, and we are trying to have deadlines and move towards it incrementally, reach the goal. Having said that, one of the issues, for instance, only yesterday, I think the day before, we had this RFP coming out for the submarines. Now, through one of the different public sector undertakings is already producing a submarine, but with the new technology, which probably again is being what is known as air-induced propulsion for the submarines, which allow it to stay underwater for a longer period of time without coming up to surface to suck in oxygen. So this again is a technology which is, we believe, is being indigenously developed, which has already been developed or is in the test stage. So we have reports of different variety. So these are issues which, as I mentioned, some of the critical technologies that we need to develop and keep on working on it. And one important thing, of course, has been already mentioned, is the export potential. I think probably CIPRI had mentioned a little while ago that we don't export more than 0.2% of the world trade. So we have a very, very negligible portion of that pie. Now, this is something which can move it. It increases, reduces, allows you to have a healthy export to countries which we want to. And secondly, allows your indigenous technology. The advantage with developing indigenous technology is as technology develops and you keep on keeping pace with it. Whereas we pay a tremendous cost to go in for technological upgrades. For instance, 10 years ago, we sent the Mirages to get a technological upgrade because the platform was there, and it ends up you're paying more than probably the cost at which is required. For instance, the avionics had changed. Now, another critical area which probably will be looked at differently has been talked about, especially in the Air Force, is the beyond visual range systems that we are looking, missile systems. Because that's a new that's a technology which people are looking at. Okay,
Mr. Rao, when you look at IDEX that was launched with a lot of pomp, especially, how do you see IDEX today? Especially defense innovation organization that launched IDEX. How do you see the journey till now?
Yes, IDEX is a very important step towards encouraging R&D in MSMEs and startups especially, and a lot of new entrepreneurs are coming up with so many ideas in small systems and big systems as well, to bring it up a system, trial it, evaluate it, and eventually productionization. So IDEX has given a thing of new hope for the small entrepreneur to come out with ideas in terms of defense solutions and weapon systems. As we see the now digital war scenario, there are a lot of technologies which are required to be integrated. So these small entrepreneurs and budding engineers and scientists who want to come up with their own enterprise to produce the systems or come up with the development of the systems, IDEX has definitely helped. In addition to TDF, that is Technology Development Fund, which DRDO is doing, both are complementing each other to encourage indigenization as well as bringing out new technologies and fostering the culture of R&D, especially in the industrial sector.
Comrade Mishra, now when you look at the way things are at this point of time, do you somewhere feel that the advantages that it holds, purely in terms of the advantages that are there, there was a change in the FDI policy that was brought about. How much of it has helped, especially defense sector get a forward-looking momentum?
Yeah, after this FDI policy has started, a lot of foreign companies are showing interest in Indian industries. And for example, we have some tie-ups, and we are talking with few foreign industries for setting up a joint venture in India. See, the advantage of this joint ventures are in one line is that when they create a joint venture in India, our products which will be manufactured in India can be exported by this company abroad, because they already have a well set and well oiled machinery for export of weapons or weapon components abroad. So that will be one of the advantage of getting the FDI and making joint ventures in India. We have got some tie-ups, we are working on it, and most probably we will be successful in creating few joint ventures in India through some foreign partners.
Okay, Mr. Prasad, also looking at the strategic partnership policy that was brought into play, especially when it comes to joint ventures, how do you see, especially in the defense sector, has it been able to make great inroads?
Well, I think it's just the beginning of the road for us. Strategic partnership has been talked about for the last couple of years, and it has been constantly been looked at as a measure. Probably, as I mentioned to you, the submarine RFP, which has just been issued, would be one of the test cases where a strategic partner route will be explored, because that allows a manufacturer to tie up with a foreign defense manufacturer and then set up a project. Because there are issues surrounding the not just a strategic partnership, the question of foreign investments coming to India, because they are not, some of them are not very enthused by the holding patterns.
Okay.
In terms of so that is something which has been under discussion for a pretty long time. And as you are talking of shifting of assembly lines to India, for instance, one of the foreign manufacturers of an aircraft has promised that if India's requirement of a defense Air Force platform is awarded, it will shift its whole assembly line to India, which means also becoming a part of the global supply chain. So these are issues that are discussions. Long-term requirements are to be worked out. One of the issues which I've noticed even probably a decade ago when we were talking of this foreign manufacturers coming to India and offering technology transfer, one of the issues they always said the availability of required skill sets, the skilled manpower required, and they don't really want to invest training people because that also adds on to the cost. They would not. So that is something which I think has been we looked at it, trying to address by making skill development linked to industry. How much of this policy has been successful, only the industry would be able to tell, and probably my co-panelists who are more experienced in production would be able to tell us.
Well, Mr. Rao, how does one look at it? An issue that Mr. Prasad raised. How would you address that issue?
Yeah, he has pointed out a few important issues. So, technology-wise, and whatever we are been getting earlier and now through strategic partnerships, which we have asked for, are important. Like in other big platforms, already strategic partnership route has been tried right now. And we have to see how it succeeds in future and how it becomes a road or way ahead for the further systems. But as Prime Minister has been always exhorting that indigenization is the mantra for reducing the imports because now the systems are becoming more and more digital. The warfare itself is becoming digital. So we have to develop our own software and the algorithms, basically, algorithms behind the software. Without that, the brain of the weapon systems or brain of the systems will be a dependent entity. That will not be good for the country. So we should have our own systems and our own software and algorithms which work behind the weapon systems nowadays, so that we have the capability to upgrade, and there is a guaranteed future technology upgradation for the systems without depending on the external help. Joint ventures and, as you said, strategic partnership are in a way come into the picture to jointly come out with solutions.
But also with regards to this indigenization list of 101 items that were brought about, Mr. Rao brought about in August 21st, and the second list of 108 items being introduced there, embargo on imports. How do you think, how has it helped, especially the embargo on 101 in the first and 108 in the second, and altogether list of say 209 items that are there in that embargo list? Has it purely in terms of indigenous manufacturing, do you see an uptick?
Absolutely. It is a huge step towards the Atmanirbharata and indigenization of the systems. And MOD has boldly put 2 lists, each with 101 systems for catering to the needs of the tri-services purely from the indigenous sources. There is a big step in encouraging, and in that lot of big ticket items are there which are thrown open for Indian industry, and lot of DRDO indigenous products have made their way into these lists, so that they become produced by the indigenous sources. This will definitely pave the way for future indigenization in weapon systems, and a big encouragement for more and more players to come into the production of the defense systems, increasing their partnership and increasing their quality standards and increasing the producibility of the systems for induction into the services. Definitely it is a big step towards indigenization of the defense systems and cutting down the imports in future in a fast pace. It's a steep rise now.
Commodore Mishra, when you look at challenges, when there is a journey, there is always bound to be challenges. Purely challenges, especially in the indigenization of defense sector that you've seen, would you say that we've been able to overcome most, but the road ahead is still filled with speed breakers?
No, first of all, I will tell that instead of challenges, there are a lot of benefits of indigenous content. Yes, in every path will always have some challenges. Till now, the challenge was the speed of upgradation of the system. But now with the present setup, like Akash NG is the biggest example of upgradation of the entire system, so that we are abreast with the technology of the future. Now we have adopted this and we have come out with a new upgrade. So the challenges will be there, and certainly we all are here to take on the challenges and move forward with that. But as Mr. GN Rao was talking about this positive list, this government's the biggest achievement is this positive list. till now we were only talking about whether to have indigenization or not, but now with this positive list, a clear-cut directive has gone to the armed forces that all these items will be procured only from indigenous sources. And the best part is, just this list has been made by the armed forces. Means the users has told that I am not going to buy any item from abroad other than these 2,209 items. Okay. And BDL has been very beneficial of this for because in this list, two items of ours, that is short range surface-to-air missile and medium-range surface-to-air missile, will be bought only from Indian source. Okay. And BDL is the source from that, so our company will benefit a lot from this positive list.
Okay, we'll leave it there. Thank you and appreciate all three gentlemen for taking time out, joining us from their busy schedule. You know, it's a pleasure having you here, especially when it comes to the defense sector. G. Narasimha Rao, Director General Production Coordination and Service Interaction, DRDO, Comrade Siddharth Mishra, CMD, Bharat Dynamics Limited, and also Senior Defense Journalist KV Prasad joining us this afternoon on this program. So clearly a pleasure having all three gentlemen on this show, as you know, we take a closing look at how this particular defense sector, or the steps that have been taken, especially in defense sector, when it comes to reforming the defense sector under Atmanirbhar Bharat. Well, many steps being taken in reforming of the defense sector, as we spoke about in the last 50-55 minutes, purely in terms of revision of FDI limit. You know, there has been the FDI limit in defense manufacturing has been shot up through the automatic route from 49% to 74%. There has been a project management unit that's been come into play, which means time-bound procurement, a defense procurement and faster decisions in setting up a project management unit that comes into play. We've also got a reduction in the defense import bill, a separate budget provision for domestic capital procurement, along with corporatization of the Ordnance Factory Board. So clearly too many steps being taken, and self-reliance in defense manufacturing is a crucial component, not only in terms of effective defense capability, but also to maintain national sovereignty and achieve military superiority. So clearly the attainment of this will ensure for India strategic independence, cost-effective defense equipment, and may lead to saving on defense import bill, which will subsequently finance the physical and social infrastructure. So clearly lots to look forward to, but then two big achievements there, especially by DRDO, and that were our points of discussion today in this edition of In Focus. Well, that's all we had time for. Thanks for watching. You take good care of yourself. Have a safe and wonderful evening ahead.